Hello and a very warm welcome to this special edition of Talking Europe. We are in Albania and in the offices of Prime Minister Edi Rama. Mr. Rama, thanks so much for letting us into these offices, which are really a cross between an artist studio and, the Prime Minister's offices. You are, of course, an artist turned politician. The works, when I look around, still look colourful and positive. Politics not affecting that creative side?
Trying, but yes, welcome, and I'm very pleased to have you here.
Now, you have just been re-elected, of course, as a Prime Minister for a second term, even with an increased majority in Parliament, which looks like you can carry out the reforms that you want. What is the first thing you want to do for Albania?
It's very important to carry on with a deep reform of the administration, in the sense of the services that people get from the administration, which have been from day one of our transition the biggest problem and source of endemic corruption. And of course, to continue with our national program of urban renaissance, and at the same time to stick on the implementation of the justice reform, which is a major key reform for our process of European integration, but also for the modernization of our state.
Indeed, during your first term, you managed to get Albania status as a candidate country for the EU. That became official. You mentioned there the judicial process. It's one of the two really reforms the EU is looking at. But explain to me, how does that reform work? There's over 300 prosecutors, legal assistants, judges that are accused of corruption in Albania. Where does one start to reform such a huge system?
We have passed a reform which is very radical, and practically we have now a completely new architecture of the system. But now, to fill the system with the right human resources, we have started a vetting process, which is practically, let me say, a trial on the judges. They have to prove that their wealth is legit. They have to prove that they don't have a liaison with criminal organized crime, and they have also to respond about decision-making in the past that looked to be smell very bad.
Yeah, more using their position for power.
So we have now two commissions, first degree and appeal, of experts that will go after every file of every judge and prosecutor, and under an international monitoring operation, which is a body composed by judges and prosecutors from US and EU.
And indeed, the opposition Democratic Party were quite concerned with that international element, wondering why Albania needed foreigners to oversee such a system. Is that a necessary element? And this vetting, will it take years?
They were very much opposed to the justice reform in general. But we insisted very much to have this monitoring, because we are a country where we are all cousins, so we needed to have a body that was not connected, family connected. So it's, in the Balkans, as in the Latin Europe, we are cousins, and we feel cousins even when we are not.
You had pledged to reform in your first mandate. I believe the promise remains the same. It's to look at the cannabis sector here in Albania, but it looks like it's a sector that's actually growing rather than receding.
No, this year is a U-turn, and because in this phase of the year you can really make an assessment about how much is planted, and we have decreased it dramatically, and I'm very confident that at the end of the year cannabis cultivation will be not anymore actual, will be history.
But because it is a lucrative industry, and in a country that is poor economically, what can replace it? You need surely another sector to replace that financial loss.
Yeah, we are poor economically, yes, but we are not, a country suffering from hunger. So we are poor as the region, and our economy is growing. We had 3.5% of growth last year. And our conviction is that we can go beyond 5 in the next 4 years. Plus, families here have a lot of support from their members that are in immigration. So let's say Albanian state is not rich. Albanians are poor, but not as poor as one would look at the numbers, because it's a lot of money coming from immigration, and it's also an informal economy that need to be fought very harshly in terms of making everyone paying its fair share of contributions.
Now, one industry I believe you were looking at expanding is that recycling industry here in Albania. Perhaps one area that could be expanded, but there were also some concerns that Albania, if you like, could be abused by other countries, notably Italy, being used as a dumping ground for dangerous or, wasted.
This is something that I have to say. Also, French TVs, including yours, have completely turned in a wrong direction, because it has never been about doing anything else but adopting the EU legislation. We are the only country in the region, let alone France and Germany, that did not yet adopt the EU legislation in terms of recycling, meaning the right of the industry to import and to export, which puts us in a very bad position. So it's not about anything else but adopting EU legislation. But this has turned in something totally different.
Yeah, you won't
because
be
it's
used
always,
as a dumping ground.
I'm sorry, but it's always it looks also sexy to find stories that can make people, shocked.
But it's good to talk about them to find out, is this a potential industry? What kind of industry do you see?
I know it's good to talk, but sometimes, I think that it's also Albanian journalism that do not do what it's needed to be done before doing the thing by asking everyone. So.
Now, of course, you would like to see Albania increase its relations with the West. Of course, with the EU, it's one thing on the agenda. Those talks haven't yet started. How patient will you be?
We don't have another alternative. So we expect that talks will start this year, but I would not be surprised if they don't. Not because we didn't do all our homework, but because EU is not very reliable in terms of engagements vis-à-vis countries like Albania. But at the end, what I think is important is that we stick on this EU vision, because we are the most Euro-optimistic nation in Europe.
Still, you're optimistic. When you look at the EU today, I mean, for the last couple of years, it looks quite divided when it came to the refugee crisis. You saw a split within the bloc. You saw the UK decide to leave entirely. You still...
Yeah, but, EU within all the EU members is suffering also, let me say it, a sense of too much spoiled by a long time of peace. It's the first generation in Europe that didn't make a war and didn't see a war. And maybe they are really spoiled in that. And in the Balkans, we are Euro-optimistic in general because we saw a war and we know what does it mean. And if Europe, for many people in EU, has become just about economy, for us it remains the most credible project of peace.
Of course, another part of that accession talks, another vital element is neighbourly relations here in the Balkans. How are they today? Because, abroad, people often feel that it's actually getting more tense again with the influence from Russia, with, various elements on the ground.
As much and as far as EU will remain our goal, we'll have frictions, but we'll be better and better. So. We are the Balkans, so it's not surprising that we may have flashbacks, but at the end we are now in our best time, and this is because of EU. If you would not exist, you would not be here so elegant, but you would be in a metal jacket.
Now, I believe you said recently that if ever accession to the EU didn't work, there could be a relationship between Kosovo and Albania, something, of course, that Serbia wasn't too happy to hear. Tell me, why did you say that? Is that really perhaps a future that you envisage, or was it a threat to the EU?
No, this is completely different, and I stated the obvious, that EU is our, let's say, container in terms of what the past has done to us, and it's our inspiration. But if EU will fade away like a dream, for sure, forces that will look for other alternatives will pop up, and it's not my vision, it's not my desire, it's not what I wish, but it's something that can happen in case EU will not be strategic, but will be just tactical.
Now, of course, Albania, a population of around 4.2 million people, but a lot of those Albanians also travelling abroad, a part of that perhaps down to the unemployment level, notably among the youth. I believe it's 28% for the under 30s. If you join the EU, is that not also a risk that you'll lose even more Albanian people?
I don't think countries lose when they are free and people are free to move. I think we will not have today countries in so good shape like your country or other countries if immigration would not be transforming them. And it's a process. We are the last to be in this process, but others have done it before. Look to the polls. And by the way, I have seen clear, uncontestable data how much this movement of millions of people from east to west after the EU accession has helped these countries, so they didn't lose. And it's about new cultures, new experiences, about something completely. We live in a different world, So we are Europeans more and more, and Albanians less and less in terms of our capacity to connect and to move. So where's the drama? I don't see the drama.
I believe in Albania, the new US President Donald Trump was welcomed in a number of towns. There was streets renamed after him. Is he seen as something very positive, the US President?
Whoever is the US President, US is always above God in Albania yet in terms of popularity. Because you have to understand that we lived for 50 years under a regime that told us that US was the devil and the forbidden apple. And so we heard it so much that we were so much eager to bite this apple that you can't imagine. So I think the regime worked for free for 50 years to make US the most admirable and trustable presence on earth for Albanians. So it's unconditioned. It doesn't matter who is the president.
It's almost untouchable for now, because of course France also has a new president, Emmanuel Macron, and he has a lot of ideas for reforming the EU. One of them really coming out strongly that he wants France and Germany to reignite that strong partnership. How do you see that? This idea that nearly two countries run the nucleus of the EU, is that not again pushing other countries aside?
I am very happy to see exactly what I have always believed was the point. Better is the relation between France and Germany. More they take the leadership and more they move towards the accomplishment of the project, less in danger EU is. Of course, there are new times and maybe new mechanisms are needed, but the important thing is that all countries feel part of the same family. And of course, it's normal to start and ask oneself, can Albania have the same weight, have the same power of veto in a EU family or other countries? This is not possible. It's like, all the kids having the same power of veto than the grandfather or the father, while the family has to take a big decision. This is not possible. The important is that the kids feel part of the family and grow healthy and wealthy. It's not the point, otherwise this is a joke.
In a pragmatic way of perhaps also to get decisions made, because that's something we've seen with the EU as 28.
And look, the refugee crisis, expressed it in the most blatant way, It's impossible, that countries like Germany take all the weight and others just say no, it's impossible.
And indeed, the Balkans also had a lot of people passing through their countries. Albania kept its doors open, but I guess people were going through. I mean, did you feel that the burden could easily be left to the Balkan countries, that the EU wasn't playing fair?
We felt normal because, in this area, we are the poorest, but we are the most European and the less cynical. So maybe we are still too naive about the future. It's like, before a marriage, you want to have it by all means, but then it's not always, But as a matter of fact, I'm very proud because the attitude of Greece or Macedonia or Serbia or Albanians was the most pro-European attitude vis-à-vis the refugees in terms of values and principles, So.
Yeah, leaving those doors open to people fleeing war. Okay, Mr. Edi Rama, it's been a pleasure speaking to you and indeed visiting these beautiful Prime Minister offices. Thanks indeed for your time. Thanks also, of course, to you at home for having watched this special edition of Talking Europe. See you again next time.